at the Hollywood Center Motel on Sunset just off Highland.
Living in LA for as long as I did, I used to love sort of protecting buildings, or feeling I was protecting buildings. When I moved there in the early 90s, it was before any of the renovations, a lot of the knockdowns and build-ups. None of the skyscrapers existed yet. And there was like these weird little rundown buildings that were still around that had Hollywood history to them. And I felt like, by pointing them out to people, isn't that cool? Isn't that really, really cool? And slowly, these things are getting knocked down. It's actually not even slowly. It's happening so quickly. There's one building or one little lot. It's an old motel on Sunset Boulevard. It's been there since the early 1900s. Thousands of people pass this building daily, weekly, monthly. You pass down Sunset Boulevard around Highland, and you wouldn't even think to look left or look right, whichever direction you're traveling, and see the Hollywood Center Motel. It's a source of comfort for me because it's been here for so long and it still stands the test of time. It's been closed. I once tried to stay here. I didn't have the nerve to do it. And it wasn't even that much money. It was like $70 to stay. Look at that breeze block. But wait till you see it. And it's been here and behind a fence for so long, I don't know why, but there it is. In the middle of Hollywood. And it's still here. I have to thank my friend Lisa from the page Hollywood Unwrapped. If you go to the website or the Facebook page or the Instagram page, Hollywood Unwrapped. And Lisa was the first one to show me these images, to take these images for us of the demolition signs in front of the Hollywood Center Motel. I kept, every time I heard about a new development happening in Hollywood, I keep thinking, well, thank God that place is still there. It's just a weird anomaly. Like, how did it last this long? And I kept hoping that the reason it's there this long is that somebody's going to buy it. And it's become a historical building. They're going to do something wonderful with it. I mean, a fantasy, of course, would be the dearly departed tours having an office there and a museum there. But so I hope that this place stayed. But this week, demolition signs showed up, and Lisa from Hollywood Unwrapped got these photographs of it, and that really made me sad. So this is one of those places where you rented like cabins. The cabins are in the back. And you can see all the cabins are still intact.
Who is it?
Barry Mason.
One of the cabins was used in LA Confidential when it was represented the guy who played the mentalist, played a James Dean lookalike prostitute who was killed in one of them in the movie. This place still stands. I really wish I would have taken that opportunity to stay there when I had the chance. And it wasn't expensive either. The Hollywood Center Motel was started in the early 1900s. It was just actually a home built in, I think it was 1901, 1902, a beautiful wood home on Sunset Boulevard. All of Hollywood used to be these beautiful wood homes, and there's just a handful of them left. And in 1922, that beautiful home was made into a motel, and several bungalows were built around it, and it became the Hollywood Center Motel. If this place goes, that will be a very, very sad thing. I mean, anything that goes that has any kind of history to it is sad, but this is like a, I don't know, man, this is like nothing else. So I could have done it for $70 a night. this motel shows up in tons of television programs and in some movies as well, usually representing a kind of a, you know, like Hollywood kind of famously went downhill in the 70s and the 80s and the 90s, and there was a lot of, you know, Pretty Woman and Angel and stuff like that, a lot of high, you know, sort of prostitution, drugs, and that sort of a thing.
We're gonna have some real nice time. I bet you can't guess what I do in the daytime. I go to school. I'm studying to be an accountant. I got straight A's on my report card. Oh, this is the place. It's right over here. It's number 4. Hey, you know, I'm into astrology. I bet I could do your sign.
Like
Want me to?
Hey, you think we should untie him?
Folks, would you settle down, please? Hey, hold it! What's the problem?
3 of our friends are dead. That's the problem. Now, what are you gonna do about it?
We're gonna do the best we can.
When it first opened as a motel, it was a family-friendly place. They ultimately opened up a swimming pool, and they offered, you know, they had plenty of parking, and they had their own continental breakfast and phone service and radio and TV. It's funny when you still see these old motels around Hollywood that you can still see the sign to say color TV, you know, water beds and stuff like that.
Visit him. So first, we'll toss Kelly Hobbs' motel room for any possible connect up to Pearl.
The Hollywood Center Motel actually was kind of like it was in LA Confidential. Now in the 70s, like Neil Young and Buffalo Springfield and the Byrds, they used it sort of as a crash pad because a lot of the recording studios were around that area. And Janis Joplin, they say, hung out there. They paid $14 a night for a room. They say they would stay there because most of the hotels on the Sunset Strip would not let them stay there. My friends at the website Instagram page Before the 101 sent me a couple of articles about the Hollywood Center Motel in the news. And there's fascinating stories of real true crime issues that happened at that hotel. In 1976, there was a Hollywood prostitute by the name of Michelle Ann Gray who was staying in the hotel and had a daughter. And she put the daughter in a drawer in a bedroom, and or in a dresser drawer while she went out and she was working the streets. And it turned out that she was murdered in downtown Los Angeles. And in the motel she shared with 3 girlfriends, the police found this 3-year-old daughter safe in a dresser drawer, snuggled between the socks and the shirts. I found that this girl who grew up to be a woman who wrote a book ended up showing up on television not that long ago and talking about her story about how she was raised by her grandparents after this event, which could have destroyed her life, really destroyed her future. But it was a positive message, but it had to do directly with Michelle Ann Gray, who was murdered back in 1976. And no witnesses came forward, and Michelle's case is still unsolved.
When I was 3 weeks old, my mother laid me in a pulled-out dresser drawer in a motel room in Hollywood, and she went out, it turns out, to turn a trick to get some money because we were low on rent.
Kelly's mother, 23-year-old Michelle Gray, never returned. The next day, her body was found on a hillside in Los Angeles. Her murder remains unsolved.
When she was killed, she was working as a prostitute, and not a lot of people cared that she was murdered.
Kelly started researching her mother's death. That led her to write a memoir titled We're All Shipwrecks. Kelly believes her mother may have been one of the first victims of a duo known as the Hillside Stranglers. The two men were convicted of murdering 10 women, ranging in age from 28 to just 12 years old.
Her death was a year before their main spree began, and they were never able to sort of connect it with physical evidence.
As well as it possibly having an association with the Hillside Stranglers, I found a couple of more articles about the place, or having to do with the Hollywood Center Motel. One is that it was held up by two gunmen, one wearing boots with a southern accent. They held up the manager and made away with only $60. And the other one is about a couple of paramedics who responded to a possible overdose. This was in June of 1978. The ambulance showed up, and a woman in her 50s, her hair dyed auburn, her eyes hidden behind sunglasses, was sitting outside in a rusted lawn chair drinking a Coke. She was not pleased to see the paramedics. I didn't ask them to call, she said, nodding in the direction of the office. We can't take you if you don't want to go, the responder said. Meanwhile, he took her pulse with her right hand. I know I'm sick, she protested, but I'm not normally like this. I'm a disabled war veteran. I did my job. She mumbled something about a head injury in a county USC medical center where they, quote, tried to put me in the psychiatric ward. The responder said, we're not going to take you to county hospital. We are an emergency ambulance. If I'm going to be treated like an animal, she said, Hanson interrupted gently, we're not going to treat you like an animal. They ask if she has enough money to get a cab to the VA hospital. A motel employee explained she came in and asked our rates and passed out on us. The woman said she was beaten up and that, quote, every speed freak in town is on my case. No, she won't go to any hospital and be put in a psycho ward. They headed back to the ambulance. It was not a case for paramedics. He shook his head. There are more mental patients in Hollywood.
So where's that motel?
Hollywood Center Motel, 6720 Sunset Boulevard.
Now, in 1986, it became a crime scene regarding a body related to the Billionaire Boys Club scandal. A maid entered room 304 and was met with the smell, which was obvious. Well, it'd be obvious to people nowadays, but at the time she didn't know what it was. And in the closet, she found the source, a locked steamer trunk. And when the police opened it, they found the badly decomposed body of a 20-year-old man, Richard Keith Mayer, wearing only a clear raincoat and wrapped in trash bags. And unable to make ends meet, he was a roadie for bands including Whitesnake. The man who rented that room, Dean Carney, had requested that no motel staff had enter, and now it's obvious why that was. But Carney was working as an LAPD informant in exchange for immunity against Joe Hunt, his former friend and leader of the Billionaire Boys Club, a Ponzi scheme that turned deadly in the early 80s. Investigators ruled the evidence pointed directly at Carney because he'd been framed and all charges were dropped.
We gonna get a new neighbor?
More than likely, I ain't gonna stay all night because I might get lucky or something, you know what I mean?
Occupied or unoccupied, it costs the same.
Oh, is that right?
Maybe your husband get lucky, too, and catch you.
It ain't like that now, Peaches.
My name ain't Peaches, Big Daddy. It's Laurel.
How'd you know my name was Big Daddy?
'Cause I checked you out.
I'm not sure when Hollywood Center Motel went out of business, but for the past sort of like 10, 12 years, it's been empty. I went in there, as I mentioned in the video, I went in there to ask about staying there, probably when it was last in operation. I would say about 12 years ago. That would make it, 2013 maybe, or 12 or something like that. But it's been closed for quite a long time, over 12 years.
Hi.
I got it.
What the heck? I don't know. Maybe the mom ran to the store or something, got picked up, didn't tell the cops about the baby.
Maybe it was a carjacking. They look in the back seat, they see the baby, they freak out, they dump it.
Or maybe God dropped it down. From heaven.
Cars do go in and out, but somebody was going there because these cars would appear and disappear, but you'd never see who it was. It was like Willy Wonka's factory. You know, you'd never see anyone going in, and you never saw anyone going out. And as I said, I mentioned several times, and on my tour, I'd always point to it and say, isn't that just the coolest thing? And I don't know, it didn't really dawn on people because LA was so filled with those kinds of cool motels back in, you know, the Route 66 days, and there's hardly any of them left. And I can't think of another one actually like this one. An old wooden house that was built, you know, in the early 1900s, probably like 1901, and these cool bungalows. And it was such a wonderful thing to see them there still. And then this week, it's March of 2025, the demolition sign comes up. So it's sad, not totally unexpected. And people don't understand how, you know, you can get so upset about, you know, architecture, about buildings, but it's Hollywood history. And so many wonderful television programs were filmed there and a couple of movies. And I don't know, I just hope that it would be there for years to come, but that is not to be. Probably just going to tear it down and, you know, be an empty lot for another 10 years. And I've heard all sorts of rumors about whoever it was that bought it. And they don't sound like the most, you know, wonderful of people. But then I'm never going to think whoever's going to tear down this cool place is going to be a wonderful person. Just as luck would have it, as I was putting the finishing touches on this video, I spoke with Lisa from Hollywood Unwrapped, and she actually spoke to someone on the property of the Hollywood Center Motel. And she asked about the future of the Hollywood Center Motel, and the woman told her, quote, only a portion of it is being torn down. Only a portion of the property is going to be torn down. So when Lisa asked a little bit, you know, for more specifics, the woman offered the roof's leak, and it's an expensive property to maintain, which I have no doubt. Property taxes are a fortune, and they have no income because the place has been closed down for so many years. So that was the answer. And then, more importantly, this is what it is. The owner is making no income from this property. That's what she was told. And that, you know, that's pretty much what it boils down to. So only a portion of the property is supposed to be torn down, according to the person on the property. The roof's leak, no surprise there. Maintenance, I'm on the fence there because it doesn't look like very much maintenance is going on that property. But fair enough. But no income from the property. That's what it all boils down to. So I want to thank Lisa from Hollywood Unwrapped. I don't know, it's a sad day for Los Angeles. It's continually a sad day for Los Angeles. And I wish I had, you know, I wish that didn't happen. But anyway, so thank you guys for listening to me whine and complain about it. I appreciate it. I appreciate you, and I appreciate your time, and I appreciate your attention. And until next time.
You heard me.